Alright, welcome back to the project. I'm holding on my left hand side, or your right. Your right is my left. Like a spreaded deck of poker cards, but it's not. Obviously, this is all like a mail, junk mail, I suppose you could say. It's not all junk though. Okay, that's better. So I turn on the lights because it is, I'm way past. It's like past midnight by a couple hours. I need to go sleep, but on what you see here, if I can show you, is a bunch of mail, right? And behind, I should show you that there's actually like this black binder. It's not a binder, it's a clipboard. But inside this is a bunch of important mail with a folder with a duo tag. I think I'll run through it before I go to bed, because and I do have to work tomorrow, so it's kind of crazy that I'm doing all this. But the previous recording is, again, I was like so fucking sick, just painful. Probably like it was like a cold that was probably brewing without any symptoms for like a couple days, and I didn't realize it creep up on me until things just like really exacerbated. It's not that bad. It's not a flu, or it's not, maybe if it's COVID, then I guess I've developed enough immunity. Long story short, let's just run through, like I said, in keeping with the tune. I just want to mention briefly that towards the end of a previous episode, which covered the whole, the renovations and everything, and the really, my brothers from another mother coming in from Afghan, and came in here and fixed up the floors and everything, and all the logistic trouble, the headache I had having to clean everything all over again and sanitize everything, and then having to sleep somewhere else with my aunt and uncle and relatives, and then having to work, and then just having a really nice day at work, but having a lot of work to do for 6 hours straight, and coming back and just saw a lot of people, met a lot of people, had a lot of fun, but it was just a lot of stuff. It's tiring and stressful, and the tasks themselves were annoying. Long story short, at the very end of the episode, it was like 45 minutes. The last 10 minutes were focused a little bit on scheduling, and I talked about how I want to shorten down the episodes, right? So, because it's not supposed to be, I can just like pop over to that one. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just pop over to the previous one. I think it's season 9, episode 11, or episode 12. So 9x12, slice of life, 9x12, 9 by 12. And the last 10 minutes talk a little bit about how I want to shorten everything back to the way things were before, like about 10 minutes, because I don't like the idea of having like long podcasts. I want to do something that was different at the time, which was to have short podcasts, which goes against what podcasting even means, but I don't mind doing things differently. If anything, might be a benefit, because I want to be respectful and mindful of like my listeners' time, like you guys who are listening. I want you to be able to like spend time like doing other things as well. And even if you're listening, you can still listen to a variety of podcasts instead of just one person speaking for a whole couple hours. I think there's more reward. It's more practical. It's more engaging. It's more interesting. It makes you, more well-rounded. And what's more better than, I'm looking forward, given the type of podcast that we're doing here, it only makes sense because I'm doing this for the benefit of like people in general and life in general. So it only makes sense that I would want you to listen to something aside from me talking for a whole hour or whatever, unless you really want to, in which case you can just click on multiple episodes, as opposed to me making long form content all the time. I just want to make short form content. That if you are interested in divulging into more topics, then you can just like continue. But anyways, long story short, that's what's covered there. And so this episode will be like a little bit, we're gonna go back to like short form shit again, because like people are busy, right? Like I said, time is a rare commodity. Honestly, we have a lot to do in life, right? So over here we have mail, and if you can't see by the title of this episode, that's what it is. So it's a little bit of recovery from the really busy day that I had beforehand. And I guess I went to the mailbox today after being sick. Like I said, I woke up 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon, which is crazy. That's crazy, my guy. And I had some administrative work to work on even when I woke up. I was working so slowly, so fucking slow, because I was just lethargic as shit. And it was so painful up here. It was like, it took me like 20 minutes to brush my teeth and floss and everything. And then I missed, you know, the routines that I usually would do. So I had to like go out to a different place to use the washroom, and I even went to my workplace to see how things were. I had to check something in my locker as well, but that's really good that I actually live that close to where I work. But I was just not feeling that great. So I took care of some stuff, and I met some few people along the way, and my colleagues. I'm glad to see some colleagues I didn't see for a while. And then after that, it's just I came back and I realized there's something else I can knock off as well. And it's this stuff in my mailbox, and I didn't realize. I just wanted to check if there was mail, and in fact there was. So why don't we run through some of the stuff here that there's about 5 of these like spam flyers. So for example, if you know, you know, but like major grocery retailers and grocery stores, large and small. So there was like one from like, I'm going to show you, they were bound in packaging like this, right? A slip, just to keep it together. So one, and I separated by the ones that were the most useful for me. But for example, this one's from a chain called NoFrills. If you live in my country, you'll know. And I sifted through everything. This is the first time in many, like probably in like 2 decades, that I've ever sifted through a flyer with the intention of seeing whether or not I was going to purchase something. Even when I was like maybe like 15 years ago, in a local city, Kitchener-Waterloo, where I was doing my studies, I never really looked through the flyers often. I would just like take a look when I logged into my account. It was like it's an Optimum account. I would check online, my online account, and they would serve me, you know, these digitalized deals as promotions, and you could cash out or get on the discounts online. But I never really looked at paper flyers, you know. That's something I haven't done for at least like 25 years at least. So it's the first time doing that, and so there's a little bit of nostalgia coming from this for sure. But yeah, this is for NoFrills, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this is the most useful one I had of all the 5 like spam flyers I received. But it still didn't offer much, so that gives you a relative gauge of because like the only thing I saw that I felt was worth buying were either a bag of avocados, which is really healthy for you, for like $3.79 or whatever in here somewhere, and then another maybe a box of crackers for like $2.22, and that's it. Yeah, and then there was like these like air fryer McCain's Cavendish like fries. Like that's about it. But I don't use the air fryer much because it requires too much work, and I don't have enough time right now. Like maybe like a year's time when things are back on track, we'll do stuff like that. But the next we have is also called from the same chain, same parent company, another subsidiary, because in my country, in my local city, it's been basically a major retailer that has been kind of monopolized a lot of its like other competitors and bought them out. Not to say that it's the only one, but thankfully there are like 3 or 4 major grocery competitive chains, and I actually work for one of them. But regardless, one of those chains already has bought out so many other subsidiary companies, and a lot of its competitors have been bought out by it. So it owns like 5 different chains for 3 different markets and niches, from the lower income to the middle upper to like the whatever. So here's the independent brochure. This is a useless one because I don't live near one. Another one is from a different chain altogether. This is not a subsidiary, it's a completely different competitor. It's a FoodBasics. Again, if you know, you know. always more for less. When I used to live at in a northeastern side of this large city that I live in. Like I said, it's a fairly large metropolis, but the northeastern suburbs have more FoodBasics than where I'm living now. And I used to actually go to get FoodBasics for a client, a senior. He was, I think, at least like 92 years old, and I would buy groceries for him on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. His daughter worked for the government, and she arranged with the seniors home that I used to volunteer for, and I get groceries, and I carry his truck or his little trolley, grandma's trolley, grandpa's trolley, go to FoodBasics and buy some stuff, write it all down using the cash he gave, and then allocate the change and give him groceries. And so that's my memories of like FoodBasics and stuff. It probably was covered, like if you take a look in my catalog of like video podcasts, you'll see probably some episodes on that from like way back. It's not even that way back, right? It's just a couple years, but it still feels like a long time ago, because I started doing that kind of shopping. They call it friendly visiting services, but there's like shopping, calling, escorting to medical appointments and stuff like that. So because I started that kind of service like in 2017, so that's more than 7 years ago. It's crazy to think that time flies, obviously, but yeah, that's that. And so it's a flyer that evokes some memories, but it's totally useless for me personally. And so now we have even more flyers here that are also useless. So FoodBasics, independent, NoFrills. Next we have Shoppers. So Shoppers usually doesn't have much that I want to buy because it's quite expensive. If you know what that is, if you don't, Shoppers is like, it's a drug pharmacy kind of retail. And so most of the stuff is generally more expensive, and they usually last longer. So if I can't get the alternatives for a more affordable price elsewhere, I tend to buy something from Shoppers only once every like couple months, if not longer. So yeah, but they're having a bit of a sale. It's like 25% off of everything here. Some things are actually quite affordable, so for $5. But I live in a city, a country that has a lot of tax anyway, so yeah, Motrin, Jameson, Smart, 20%, meal replacements. Yeah, generally stuff that I just don't need. Again, probably because I'm not a woman, I'm not a lady, so I don't really deal with too much of the like beauty stuff or fashion or cosmetics. But you don't have to be like a woman just to do kind of, you can take care of your skincare and stuff like that without being like, but it's just I in general, like I said, I've spoken this on some of my past episodes, that I'm not particularly I'm not too well focused on appearances. It's not a very important thing to me. Health is important, but beauty isn't. As a result, cosmetics is kind of like a hit or miss. So Shoppers is like very low priority for me unless they have like food on sale. Or if I'm sick and I need to get like some like over-the-counter drugs to address the fact that I'm sick, which to be honest I am. But even when you're sick, like it's coming again, I'm also like part like allied health kind of trained. I was going to be medically trained at one point, right? I was doing that pre-med, pre-dental stuff, pre-optometry, pharmacy, and my whole degree is in that anyways. But I've always like, education aside, I've always valued, research and scientific endeavors in the medical field and healthcare. So I'm just going to say very quickly, this is important, but just because you're sick doesn't mean you have to take antibiotics. Like, God forbid. I think everyone should know this by now. But antibiotics don't treat your illnesses, especially if they're viral infection. That's very important to mention. It doesn't mean that you won't take antibiotics if you catch the flu or the seasonal, RSV or whatever. But because you can get, oftentimes with a viral infection, what happens is you get a co-infection with a bacterial, you get compromised your immune system, and so you get both a viral and a bacterial infection. But the root source of any viral infection is the virus, and so that's something that usually you only just have to let time subside. You have to go through the nasty 5 days to 2 weeks of being sick and then your immune system will unleash its own adaptive immunity. And by adaptive immunity, that's like B and T lymphocyte plasma cell. If you know, you know. Like this, like going back, even if you're in high school, you'll know what I'm talking about in the latter years. Anyways, you don't need to be like a, medically trained university student or a graduating like doctorate who's about to enter the clinical setting in practice, right? To understand what a B or T lymphocyte plasma cell is. Long story short, your adaptive immunity will kick in within like 2 weeks time, if not less, and then you'll be fine. But you don't need antibiotics for sure all the time. Only when things escalate, which means that you do need to monitor your condition. That's for sure. Okay. But this is not medical advice, by the way. It's not medical advice. I'm just talking. All right. I'm just sharing the stuff that I know, or stuff that I've been trained on. So next, beyond that, we have something I do actually like. This is a main tire. So this is one of those like Home Depot and stuff like that, and covers a lot of like very useful stuff. Because, like I said, if I'm not that well versed, I am well versed in like health and beauty and cosmetics, but I don't think it's high priority. That's all. However, I really, if you couldn't tell, really like the trades and the construction and auto, and this is one of those. So inside here we have a lot of drills, appliances, stove tops, cabinetry, woodworking, pots, pan, kitchenware, and drills, tools, tents, outdoor camping equipment. Basically, this is one of those like large hardware stores and outdoors kind of stuff. But it's also fairly useless because, once again, for me, that's just way beyond the budget, and I have no personal use for that. So we have now maybe 5 of these here, which I can repurpose as, I tend to whenever I get out of the shower, I tend to step on these instead of stepping on used clothing or stepping on a mat. And then if I have to do any kind of personal grooming or cut my hair, I tend to use these to capture all my hair, and I do sometimes put my hair anyways. We have one here that's Canadian Tire, one's from Shoppers Drug Mart, the other one from NoFrills, another one from FoodBasics and Badida. So I'm not going to do this every single week that I receive mail, obviously. This is just like a one-off episode, or maybe once in a blue moon, once every every trimester, maybe we'll do one of these. Every 3 months, every year, I don't know. It's not that important. Okay, and then there's one last one here, and this one's from HelloFresh. So this one might be more familiar with everyone who's watching, because HelloFresh obviously started off as a company that was a startup for meal delivery services and pre-cooked meals, and a lot of the sponsorships actually were started off online. So for those of you, of course, watching right now, if there was a time during especially the pandemic worldwide where people stayed, where I guess quote unquote chronically online all the time, you would have seen those advertisements on Twitch or YouTube, especially if you did any sort of entertainment. If you spending time online at the time doing entertainment related activities, like watching videos or watching people play games on Twitch or whatever, you would know that there were sponsorships. I'm speaking from some experience here, knowing that one of my very close, he's like a son to me, but he's my really young brother. He did sponsorships for example, one of these here, which I won't mention, Food Factor, when he was doing his own side business. So that's where some of my knowledge comes from, is that HelloFresh was one of those sponsorships. And it's 11 free meals. Enter to win one of 5 annual Good Life Fitness memberships. Balanced meals without breaking the bank. And then on the back, so there's 2 cards attached to it. But obviously they're working smarter now. The model is not such a freebie as it used to be. And that makes sense, because they wouldn't be able to make very much profits if they just gave free meals to everyone. Long story short, it's split amongst 5 large orders of $100 plus whatever. So it's not that great for the consumer unless you're going to be sticking with the subscription for at least a couple months. But if you do, it'll be worthwhile, obviously, because it'll save over a long run, $100 or whatever. And at the back here, if I read a little bit, 60 plus recipes every week. I remember when HelloFresh started, they had like maybe less than like 25 recipes, honestly. But obviously it's expanded, it's grown as a company. It's been like many years now. So 60 plus recipes, effortless meal planning, get your time back. And they give some, it's really professional now. Before it was like kind of like this startup, but now it's very, very professional. So now we have like, the imagery is really nice. You'll get free breakfast for life, some nice promotions, veggie, carb, and calorie smart, 15-minute meal, speedy chicken apple salad, smart apricot mustard pork chops, and rainbow falafel bowls. And then they have also a connection with a local fitness place, which is Good Life Fitness. So yeah, very nice. So that's all trash. All this is recyclable. I'm gonna use it probably, like I said, for the shower, and then I'll just like, my hair or whatever, and then I'll just dump it in the trash, or those I've used into the recycling bin, and that's it. So yeah, that's it. And one last thing I should mention is, and there were some things I probably wanted to mention that I missed from the past like 45-minute podcast episode. When I talked about the team of Afghanis who came over, who really did a number on the floor and fixed it up real nice. We had like some banter, some laughs, and left with some brotherly camaraderie. And then there was like me getting sick. There was me like staying somewhere else for the night, and then going to work, and then coming back and having to clean everything. So on top of that, I also want to mention that, like I said, on the floor, it's all fixed now. But one of the other things I had to do, can't see the floor, sorry, is that I had to, aside from just cleaning everything, desanitize everything, wiping everything down, and opening the doors, the windows, letting the cold in, the draft come in, having to turn on ventilation for the next 2 weeks, and mopping, sweeping. One of the things I had to do in addition to that was I had to caulk. You have to put transparent caulk, and you're not really supposed to use caulk. You're supposed to use resin. And I do have resin, but resin takes forever, and it releases a lot of toxic fumes again. So that'd be kind of counterproductive, because I'm already trying to vent out the fumes that we have. So instead of using resin, I just opted for a really kind of messier option, which is I use paint to paint around the baseboards that were free now. I had tape covering it because there was a pest control issue, but I don't have to seal it anymore because it's already fully sealed anyways with the varnish anyways. So what I covered the varnish with afterwards is because it looks kind of messy. Because if varnish is just like clear translucent brown, and the baseboards, some of it was like really kind of because of the adhesive from the tape that I pulled off, a lot of the wood just got stuck to it. So I had to paint white all over that. And then I also, near the bottom boundaries, the edges where the baseboard was meeting the varnish on top of the wood flooring, I also wanted to paint over the varnish, just cover off that tinge of beige, and like that looks like piss, to be honest. And then the planks on the floor, right? Even though the guys came in, obviously they had to do it. It was a bidding thing, right? A bidding restoration job from the independent contractors to the housing complex. As you can expect, it's not high quality. They didn't fix it, right? Like they fixed it, but they didn't like fix it, right? Like they had to do things in a very rough, shoddy way because there's a time limit, and they have multiple jobs they need to get to. Honestly, the quality obviously isn't that great because we're not thinking of like renovating for a house, in which case you would shill a lot more money, and then the contractors would target a demographic that is expecting better results. They came in and they got the job done, but obviously there's a lot of like cracks. There's like some of them are like 2 millimeter wide cracks in between some of the wooden planks. So what I did is I took some caulk and adhesive, like acrylic latex kind of sealant, and just like the transparent type, and I just filled the cracks, and that took me a good hour and a half. So that's worth mentioning. That was where a lot of time went. And I noted that down on my Excel, like documentation, like the stuff I had to do afterwards. So yeah, that's what I had to do yesterday as well. And that was really tiring because I had to be kneeling down the whole time. And I had gloves on, and it was just, so that's something else to mention as well. And yeah, I think that's about it. So keeping in tune with the 5-10 minutes. If you have done anything similar with, if you've done any kind of handiwork before, whether it's like plumbing, carpentry, or like woodworking, like you can feel free to just chime in on the bottom below. Is that a hobby of yours, whatnot? And also, if you have anything to talk about, like if you recognize some of these chains here, or if you've ever bought anything from like NoFrills or HelloFresh or whatever, you can like feel free to like just add a little bit of your own like stories in the comments if you want. Okay, that's it. Trying to shorten things down. 25 minutes. 25 minutes still isn't short enough, but it's better than 45. So see you guys in the next one. This is Shruska, and peace.